Welcome. Today, we're stepping back a bit, taking a deliberate detour, you could say, away from all the noise, the constant notifications, the feeling that we always need to be rushing somewhere else.
Hmm.
We want to invite you into a space that's quieter, more contemplative. We're looking for those profound truths that often hide, not in the big, obvious places, maybe.
Not on mountaintops necessarily.
Exactly, not in ancient texts, but maybe in the most unglamorous, unavoidable parts of our day-to-day lives.
Right there.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something quite specific, a kind of hidden kuyin, maybe, found right there in your kitchen sink.
And that's really where the journey has to start, isn't it? Because right beneath the surface of all that ordinary stuff, the mundane, there's a fundamental silence. It actually lives in the kitchen sink.
A silence. That's interesting because I think if most people were really honest, facing a pile of dirty dishes, well, silent isn't the word they'd use.
No, probably not.
It usually feels more like, I don't know, mental bargaining, maybe resentment, a strong desire to just be anywhere else. It feels like pure obligation.
Precisely. And that's the distinction. This isn't the silence of absence. It's not that quiet you hear when, you walk into an empty room.
Okay.
This is more like the silence of fullness, a kind of deep hum that vibrates just beneath the surface of ordinary, sometimes messy life. And it's just waiting patiently there to be heard.
So it doesn't announce itself, no big fanfare.
No bells or special robes needed. It actually disguises itself. It hides in the mundane, in the totally ordinary.
Like what, for example?
Well, think about the subtle steam that rises from the warm water, or the slow, unhurried slide of a soapy sponge across a plate. Even the small, quiet clink when you put a spoon in the drying rack.
Huh, okay.
It's hiding right there in plain sight.
I think for most of us, the default assumption is just dishes are a necessary evil, right? A chore you blast through to get back to what we think of as real life.
Leisure screens rest.
Yeah, exactly. We sort of sprint past the sink, mentally anyway, to get to the couch or the phone or whatever else feels more important.
But what if that whole calculation, that whole way of thinking is completely upside down?
How so?
What if the only real life you ever truly get, the only one you actually possess, is happening right here, right now, in this supposedly unglamorous, maybe inconvenient moment of scrubbing and rinsing and stacking?
So Zen isn't just for retreats or special occasions.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Contrary to what many people think, it's not reserved for mountaintops or quiet meditation halls. It lives quite perfectly, quite simply, right there in the dishwater.
Okay, let's try and bring the listener you right into that physical experience then. So you're standing at the sink, maybe you're tired after a long day,
Sleeves rolled up.
right? Your hands are in the water, it's just warm enough. It feels like a kind of physical anchor, maybe, a point of comfort.
And the bubbles gather around your fingers like tiny, temporary little structures. And there, clinging to the plate, is that film of grease, the sticky stuff left over from the meal, the ghost of dinner, you could say.
Okay.
Now, when you actually apply your attention, along with the warm water, to wipe that film away, something else starts to dissolve too, something deeper.
What's that?
It's the day's tension, the mental static you've accumulated. It's the mind's constant argument with how things are. It's the illusion, really, that you are somehow separate from this moment, from this simple act.
So it's not just cleaning a plate.
It's not just cleaning. In the deepest sense, it's a way of returning to yourself.
And this idea of returning, well, it immediately bumps up against our modern habits, doesn't it? Which I guess brings us straight to that first big paradox, the paradox of presence.
It does.
Yeah.
And the paradox starts with that Zen instruction that sounds so simple, almost too simple.
Which one is that?
When walking, just walk. When eating, just eat.
Right. It sounds elementary. Almost. I don't know, condescendingly simple. Like, of course I just walk when I'm walking.
Exactly. But is that the reality? Usually, the body is doing the walking. Yes, the physical action. But the mind,
Oh, the mind's everywhere else.
everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's replaying an argument from yesterday. It's planning next week's meetings. It's scrolling through some imagined future scenario. It's a state of constant displacement.
Okay, displacement. I like that word for it.
Our bodies are anchored right here, right now, eating, walking, washing dishes. But our minds are off, striving, worrying, chasing some idea of a better state, a better moment. And in that constant split, that internal division, life just slips away, like soapy water down the drain. We're giving up the only thing we actually have, which is now, it's this pervasive habit, displacement.
Well, okay, let's say someone listening, maybe tired, standing at their sink right now is challenging this. They're thinking, it's easy to talk about stopping the estate, but what actually happens if I commit, even for just, say, 3 minutes? What does it feel like to just be with this plate in my hands instead of thinking about that email I need to send?
Well, the difference is it's immediate and quite profound, actually. The world, which might have just been a blurry background to your internal movie,
Yeah.
it suddenly sharpens. When you achieve that kind of true, unforced presence, all the sensory details that your rushing mind was filtering out, they come vividly into focus.
Like what specifically? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. You might notice the exact weight of the mug you're holding. It feels heavier when it's wet, right?
Right.
You might notice the precise curve of the handle, how it fits in your palm. Maybe you see the light catching a single droplet of water that pluzzes on the rim for just a second before it falls.
Okay.
You start to really feel the texture, the slight roughness of the ceramic against the softness of the sponge, maybe? Or the resistance of some dried-on rice under your thumb. You might even become aware of the rhythm of your own breathing and notice how it naturally starts to sync up with the back and forth motion of your arm as you scrub.
And it's in those moments maybe that time stops feeling like something you have to manage, like a resource you're spending.
Exactly. Time loses its tyranny.
Yeah.
It doesn't speed up or slow down. It just is. And that realization brings us right to the first paradox we mentioned. The more fully, the more totally you commit yourself to the chore, the less it actually feels like hard, burdensome work. The more it starts to feel like effortless flow.
So it shifts. It transforms from just being a means to an end and, to get the kitchen clean into something completely different.
It becomes a kind of moving meditation.
Okay, a moving meditation. But I have to ask the skeptical question here for the listener who's maybe very efficiency-minded. How do we stop this new thing, this moving meditation, from just becoming another task on the to-do list, another thing to optimize? Am I doing my Zen right?
Yes. That is the crucial insight, isn't it? It only becomes a moving meditation because you have stopped trying to achieve mindfulness the very moment you introduce striving.
The desire to get it right.
Yes, the desire to get spiritual points or make the moment better or more zen. That striving is the ego popping back up, reasserting itself. There isn't a goal here. There's no clean kitchen. That's the ultimate destination you're racing towards. The act itself, the washing, is complete in each moment. The bowl, in its beautiful simplicity, it only asks to be held and rinsed and returned to readiness.
It's not looking for praise for being clean.
Exactly. It seeks nothing.
That framing the act itself is complete. That feels really grounding. It forces the reality of the practice right into the immediate present, which I guess explains why the old Zen masters didn't try to avoid daily chores.
That's the key context, yes. Their enlightenment wasn't something they achieved by escaping the practical things, the physical reality of life.
Right.
Their spiritual practice wasn't separate from chopping the wood or carrying the water or sweeping the monastery courtyard. Their total undivided attention to the task. That was the enlightenment.
And this is where it gets really interesting, especially for someone listening who maybe isn't familiar with the Zen stories. We hear about these masters being asked these huge cosmic questions.
Unanswerable questions often.
Right. And yet there's that famous story where a master is asked, what is the Buddha? And the answer is...
drying radishes in the sun.
Radishes. Drying the sun.
Just radishes. Just sun. Just this very specific, unrepeatable moment unfolding. The profound truth is deliberately, almost playfully, disguised as the utterly mundane.
So the dishes, they aren't beneath us. They're not just an obstacle to get through.
No. They are, if you allow them to be, perhaps your wisest and certainly your most immediate teacher.
Okay, let's pivot slightly then. We've talked about presence, just being there. But what about meaning? How does that simple act of paying attention start to create meaning that goes beyond just, well, having clean dishes?
Well, the dish itself, it's more than just an object. It's like a quiet record keeper, a silent witness.
How so?
Think about it. Every little chip, every faint tea stain, maybe a mismatched cup in the cupboard. Each one holds a tiny story.
A story of what?
Of nourishment shared, of hunger being satisfied, of the hands that maybe prepared the food, of the life that was sustained by that meal. Little history, little histories.
And I suppose when we wash carelessly, when we're just rushing through it thinking about something else, we're essentially just erasing those little stories, treating the dish like it's disposable or meaningless.
Yes. But if you choose to wash with tenderness, with attention,
Yeah.
it becomes an act of honoring those stories It's like a quiet declaration you make with your hands, almost confirming this mattered, this meal mattered, this moment mattered. You, the person who ate from this plate, you mattered.
Wow. And when we connect with that, when we honor that physical reality, I can see how gratitude might start to bubble up naturally. But you made a specific point earlier. It's not gratitude for the dishes, which sounds a bit transactional.
No, exactly. It's more like gratitude that flows through the dishes. It rises, well, not as a thought you have to force or manufacture,
Yeah.
Not, okay, now I should be grateful.
Right.
It's more of a feeling that rises up naturally from that deep recognition of your actual present reality.
Yeah.
It comes from your fingertips, almost up your arms. This feeling of recognition.
Recognition of what?
Of being alive,
Mm-hmm.
of having enough food that it actually leaves residue on a plate, of having clean flowing water from a tap, of having a home, a shelter around you.
Mm-hmm.
These are the daily quiet miracles, aren't they? But they're dressed up in the ordinary clothes of routine, so we miss them.
But the mind protests, doesn't it? Our minds are kind of built for planning and judging and optimizing, and that mind screams, this is boring. This is beneath me. I've got better, more important, more intellectual things I could be doing right now.
Oh, absolutely. And that internal noise, that's the shadow of that displacement we talked about, trying to pull you away again. But here's the really profound realization.
Mm-hmm.
You don't actually need to feel grateful to practice gratitude.
Say more about that. That sounds paradoxical too.
You only need to be present. The mind protests because it mistakenly believes that meaning is only found in the big stuff, the extraordinary events, the memorable highlights.
The peaks.
Yes. But the heart, or maybe just deeper knowing, understands that all true meaning is actually woven into the fabric of the everyday, stitch by invisible stitch. And washing the dishes, it's one of those crucial foundational stitches in that fabric.
So the chore itself, even the resistance we feel towards it, it kind of transforms into a koan, like a riddle that pushes us out of just thinking about it and into experiencing it directly.
Exactly. The resistance itself becomes the doorway. And this brings us to those deeper Zen koans that are hiding right there in the sink, waiting for us.
Okay, what are they?
Well, the first one really tests your intention, why you're doing it. It's, if no one sees you wash the dishes, are you still practicing?
Ooh, that hits the ego, doesn't it? The need for validation.
It does. And then there's a more provocative one, which really targets our sense of self, our identity. It asks, who is washing the dishes? The one who hates it, or the one who's vanished into the water?
Wow, okay. The moment you ask who the doer is, who this I is that's washing, the whole practice seems like it could just crumble. Because the goal shifts, doesn't it? It's no longer about getting a plate clean, but about maybe dissolving the ego that wants the credit for the clean plate.
Precisely. And this introduces the second great paradox of washing dishes.
Yeah.
Washing without a doer. Zen loves paradox, because paradox ties the logical mind in knots. It forces another way.
But the trap is so easy to fall into, isn't it? The moment you think, okay, I'm going to do mindfulness right now while I wash these.
The presence just slips away,
Yeah.
like trying to hold onto a wet bar of soap.
Mm.
Because you've reintroduced the doer. You've brought back the self that's standing apart, observing, and keeping score on the performance.
And we're so used to performing, aren't we? Even when we're completely alone. We turn these simple, potentially sacred acts into a kind of show, even if the only audience is that critical voice inside our own head.
It reminds me of that analogy, the story of the young monk in the monastery. He's assigned the task of washing the bowls. And he scrubs with this fierce, intense, visible concentration. He's absolutely convinced that every single stroke is bringing him closer to enlightenment. He's really trying,
Right.
putting in the effort.
Exactly. And the abbot observes him, sees this rigorous intensity, and just quietly says, you are not washing bowls, you are polishing your ego.
Ouch.
Yeah.
But the modern listener, the person trying to learn this, might immediately argue back. Right, but I am concentrating. I am being present.
And the quiet answer comes back. Then who is it that's keeping score? That's the challenge for all of us. Standing there on a tired Tuesday evening, we think, okay, I'm practicing gratitude now. I'm being really zen. And in that subtle, perhaps slightly self-congratulatory thought, we've turned the whole thing back into a performance for that internal observer. We separated ourselves from the simple reality of the moment once again.
So trying to be present actually solidifies the self that is trying.
Exactly. And that self is always one step removed from the raw, simple reality of life itself, unfolding right here. So how do we step away from that self? The one that's always trying, always evaluating. What does true presence actually feel like if there's no internal witness, no scorekeeper?
True presence is.
Yeah.
It requires something that we can maybe call total availability to the moment
Yeah.
without arguing with it.
Okay.
Think about it. Think about the greasy pan.
Hmm.
That really stubborn, sticky mess that can induce a kind of specific primal rage in a tired person.
Oh, I know that pan well.
Right. Now, when you encounter that tough, greasy residue, your hand, your physical hand, it doesn't argue with the grease, does it?
No, just scrubs.
It doesn't resent it, doesn't sit there wishing it was an easier teacup.
Hmm.
It simply meets the resistance with warm water,
Yeah.
with steady, gentle pressure, with patience.
The hand doesn't get philosophical about it. It doesn't think, ugh, this again. Why me? Why can't this just be easy?
Exactly. The hand just responds with total availability. There's no mental commentary attached to the action itself. And the question for our minds is this: can our consciousness meet the present moment in the same way? Can we meet a moment of being stuck in traffic, or a moment of boredom, or even the intense frustration of that greasy pan?
Yeah.
Can we meet it without the internal argument, without resistance, without wishing it were different?
Because most of us, most of the time, we treat the present moment like an unwanted guest, maybe? Someone we have to tolerate while we're waiting for the real guest, the real moment to finally arrive.
The achievement, the vacation, the promotion.
Right, the good stuff.
But Zen philosophy flips that completely.
Yeah.
It suggests that the real moment, the important one, is almost always the one you're actively trying to avoid or rush through.
So the stubborn, sticky, greasy pan, that's the path.
That is the path.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely requires you to be fully here. Resistance only makes the cleaning harder, right? It forces you eventually to drop the commentary, drop the doer, and just become the process of washing itself.
And this understanding where the self and the object kind of dissolve into the action, that brings us back to that classic, really baffling Zen question, doesn't it? What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Yes. It's unanswerable by logic, of course, because logic needs two hands to clap. It relies on dualities, the hand and the sound, the washer and the thing being washed.
Right.
But what if the sound isn't a noise at all? What if it's describing a state of being?
Okay.
What if the one hand represents the hand that washes without that division, without the internal commentary, without the separation between the person scrubbing and the object being scrubbed?
Ah.
In that dissolution of boundaries, the paradox just resolves itself. Not because you figured it out intellectually, but because you experienced that total, undivided presence.
That shift in perspective, thinking about the dish not as dirty, but maybe just as used, that feels powerful. We slap the label dirty on it, and that automatically implies there's something wrong, a flaw that needs fixing.
But is it truly dirty? Or is it simply used? It served its purpose. We label it dirty because for now it no longer serves the immediate purpose of holding food. But the dish itself is still whole, isn't it? Still capable, still part of this cycle.
And modern life often pushes us away from that idea, doesn't it? It pushes us towards the new, the pristine, the untouched, always upgrading, replacing.
It does. But deeper philosophical traditions, especially something like Zen, find a particular kind of beauty in history, in imperfection.
You mean like wabi-sabi?
Exactly, the philosophy of wabi-sabi, that Japanese aesthetic that finds beauty in things that are transient, imperfect, maybe incomplete. It values the subtle patina that things acquire through use and age.
Like a chipped teacup or the worn finish on a wooden bowl you love.
Precisely. So washing dishes, if you look at it through that lens, it's not about restoring some imaginary factory perfect state. It's actually an act of profound reverence for impermanence itself.
How so?
You're caring for the object. You're gently preparing it for its next use, its next meal, its next story. It's participating in that cycle.
And in doing that, maybe we're acknowledging our own part in that same cycle. This day will end, this moment passes, our bodies age. We're part of that constant flow of giving and receiving, using and caring, holding, and eventually letting go.
Yes. And this reverence for the external object, the dish, then leads us quite naturally to the inward koan, the reflection of the dish onto our own sense of self.
Which is...
If the dish is clean, only when you stop seeing it as dirty, when are you clean?
Wow. Okay, that lands. Because we carry so much invisible stuff, don't we? Mental grime.
Regret, comparison, fear.
The deep-seated belief maybe that we're fundamentally flawed or just not enough somehow, and we try so hard to scrub that mental grime away.
With external things, right. Achievements, distractions, maybe forcing ourselves to think positive thoughts.
Yeah.
But what if? What if, just like the dish, we were never truly dirty to begin with? What if we're only temporarily clouded by these passing thoughts, these old, outdated labels that the ego keeps sticking on us?
So the practice isn't about becoming pure or clean.
The practice is more about stopping, fundamentally stopping, believing you were ever unclean in the first place. That, I think, is the heart of radical gentleness.
Radical gentleness. I like that. It doesn't sound like it demands this grueling effort at self-improvement.
No, it simply invites quiet, unwavering recognition. Just like the warm water meets that resistant grease without judging it. Our quiet awareness can meet our own internal flaws, our impatience, our fear, whatever it is, not with rejection or a demand that they change immediately.
They're just with attention.
Just with quiet, non-reactive attention, holding it gently.
Okay. And this feels like it leads us to the really practical question for the listener. For you, listening tonight, if you're standing there at the sink feeling tired, maybe overwhelmed, why? Why should you apply this kind of deep meditative attention? What's the payoff? What result can I expect for putting in this kind of effort?
Yes. The what's in it for me question.
We're so conditioned to expect a reward, aren't we? A spiritual gold star, an immediate feeling of blissful peace washing over us.
And here is the final and perhaps most liberating insight. You are not washing the dishes to get to a clean kitchen.
Okay.
You are washing them because this is exactly what life is asking of you right here, right now.
So there's no hidden prize.
No spiritual reward system being tallied up somewhere. No hidden prize waiting at the end. No perfect, Instagrammable moment of serenity that you have to earn or achieve. There is just you, the water, the dish, and the quiet, simple truth that everything you actually need for peace, it's already here, in this moment, available.
That completely reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? It moves it away from being a means to some beautiful end, the clean kitchen, to the experience itself being the end, the whole point.
Yes. And this insight, I think, leads us to a really crucial modern one that highlights our current, our crisis of attention, maybe.
What's at the modern code?
It's this. Your phone buzzes with a notification. The sink is full of dishes. Which one are you avoiding and why?
Oof. Yeah. We instinctively reach for the phone, don't we?
We do. Because it promises escape, distraction, maybe validation, a little dopamine hit.
Right.
But the dishes. The dishes just reflect back exactly where we are in that moment. Are we distracted?
Right.
Rushed. Fragmented. They don't care about our job title, our identity, our ambitions.
They just ask that one question.
They ask only one relentless question. Are you here?
And if the answer is yes, if you are truly here,
if you are fully open, fully available to the process, then something amazing happens. The boundary, the separation between you, the washer, and the task of washing, it just dissolves completely.
So there's no more thought of, I am washing.
No, there is only washing, only the water flowing, only the warmth on your hands, only this breath moving in sync with the motion, only this.
Then in that state.
In that kind of miraculous, simple state.
Yeah.
You're not practicing Zen anymore. You are Zen as a living, breathing, unhurried reality.
It means the sacred isn't somewhere else on a retreat in a book. It's found right inside the texture, the reality of the most ordinary things.
Yes. So we arrive, finally, at that moment after the last plate is rinsed, maybe stacked in the rack. That quiet space, just before you reach for the towel to dry your hands. Everything just stops. The water drips its last few drops into the basin. The steam fades away. Your hands are wet and warm and empty for a moment. And in that quiet emptiness, sometimes something unexpected rises up.
What kind of thing?
A kind of knowing that doesn't really have a name. A deep sense of settledness, completion. Not accomplishment, but just settled.
And maybe this is where gratitude shows its true face, not the forced kind.
Exactly. Not as a reaction you should have, I must thank the universe for this meal, but as a fundamental condition of being, like sunlight, like the air you breathe. It's simply what remains when all the noise of demanding and comparing and chasing finally falls quiet.
Because we've been trained, haven't we, that gratitude is something active, something we have to perform. List it, write it down, say it out loud.
But perhaps real gratitude isn't performed at all. Perhaps it's simply uncovered. It's the peace that's already there, waiting, underneath everything else. It's what remains when you finally stop insisting that this precise moment right now should be any different than it actually is.
So the clean kitchen, it was never really the point?
Never the point. The point was your hands in the water. Your presence, found right there in the middle of the ordinary struggle.
The dishes, which seem like the obstacle to peace, turn out to be the quiet, insistent doorway into it.
And that perhaps is the final, most exquisite paradox of all. The more completely you give yourself over to the small things, to one chipped mug, to a single greasy spoon, the more the vastness, the eternal, somehow reveals itself within that smallness.
You don't need the mountaintop.
You don't need the mountaintop or the guru or the expensive retreat center. You only need, a willing heart, maybe. And the commitment to just this one unhurried act.
And in that lack of hurry, time changes, doesn't it?
Time collapses. Past worries and future plans just dissolve. There's only the glide of the sponge across ceramic, the simple scent of the soap, maybe a single droplet falling from your wrist into the water in the sink, like a tiny perfect bell ringing once in an empty temple.
And in that sound, that single drop, there's silence.
Yes, but again, not the silence of absence. It's the silence of fullness. The kind that doesn't need any words because it somehow already contains everything. We spend so much time looking for meaning in the extraordinary, the dramatic, but maybe Zen just keeps whispering the opposite. Look closer. Look at the laundry. Look at the commute. Look at the dishes in the sink.
So the invitation we want to leave you with tonight, the quiet question that might just echo in the space between your thoughts as you go about your evening, is this. What if everything you've been waiting for, everything you've been searching for, peace, connection, maybe a sense of belonging, grace, even what if it's already here?
I know.
Completely disguised as the most ordinary, unavoidable task waiting in your life.
What if the cleanest thing in your kitchen tonight isn't actually the spotless dishes,
Yeah.
but the mind that simply stopped fighting the moment? So don't ask yourself how to be more grateful as you stand there later. Just stand there. Feel the water on your hands. Listen. Listen to the silence that holds everything. It has no words, but it holds everything.